the next half hour, 45 minutes or so, I'll start off the session talking about what is event analytics, and then I'm going to turn it over to Don Ellis, who's with the state of Minnesota. And they're one of the 2 customers we did proof of concepts with a couple months ago for event analytics. And let me just start off with kind of like a high-level introduction to what this is. And I want to start with the actual product name, Software AG's Event Analytics for Adabas. What this is all about is, I really wish it wasn't called Event Analytics for Adabas. I wish it was just called Event Analytics, because it can actually monitor anything. And Eric Wood's on the line, and he's here to help me if I have, issues with the demos or anything like that. So, and Eric has participated in the proof of concepts as well. So what Event Analytics allows you to do is take data from anything practically, and no matter where it resides, on the mainframe, on a Linux, Unix, Windows box, whatever, and then you can start analyzing that. And you can analyze this data, and that data, like I said, can be anything. It can be from Adabas, so it could be review logs, it could be from application data, it could be just anything. And you can analyze that in either real time or near real time, and you, the customer, will decide what it is you want to monitor. So it's the kind of who, what, when, where, and what data was being analyzed. And from this analysis, we could create rules, and alerts, and then we create these dashboards. And as we go through this presentation, I'm hoping that you'll get a better feel for what this is. And the best part of the presentation is actually the live demo that Don's going to be doing based upon the proof of concept we did at State of Minnesota. So the whole idea behind event analytics is you have to capture data. And again, these slides all refer to Adabas, but it can really be anything. For those Software AG customers who are Adabas natural customers, we are definitely targeting you guys for this, and that's why it's called Event Analytics for Adabas. But in addition, beyond capturing Adabas natural type of data in TireX, the typical Software AG products, the licenses can be expanded to capture anything. So what you're going to do is you're going to capture your relevant data, and Software AG would work with you on figuring out what it is you want to monitor. An interesting little side story here is I was doing a version of this for a customer, I think it was last week. It kind of all runs together. And they said, the whole idea is really interesting. And, you say you can capture event analytics for anything. Could we capture SMF data? And I thought about it for a second. I said, yeah, sure, why not? As long as you could tell us what the data looks like, basically map the data, and then tell us the second part here, the analyze part. So what do you want to look at within all that SMF data or within an Adabas review record or whatever it may be? How do you want to analyze that? And when you see Don's working example, you'll have a better idea for that. But, so like it was one of the things we looked at was unauthorized cases. And they wanted to know when people were looking at cases they were authorized to look at. So who was it, what case were they looking at, what time and what day they did it. Same thing would go for SMF data or anything else you want to analyze. Just tell us what the data looks like, which of the data fields you want to do the analysis on, and then part of that piece of analysis is also the action. Do you want to just visualize it in a dashboard? Do you want to send out an alert via text message or an email or something like that? But anyway, it's a whole process, and that's kind of what I'm here to explain. And then Don's going to show you this in live action. So event analytics it's a new product to the Adabas natural world, but it's not new to Software AG. Event analytics, as you'll see coming up in another slide or so, is actually a compilation of products or a grouping of products that Software AG has either developed or purchased over the last several years. And it's just a grouping or a product offering that allows you to take all of these products, install them, and in a very, very short time frame, have active dashboards up and working and alerts going on. And as we walk through the proof of concept, Don will explain all that to you. And as I really tried to emphasize this a lot, the product is not limited to Adabas, even though the title of the product is called Event Analytics for Adabas. Another proof of concept we did, actually, we were streaming not only Adabas data, but IntireX data and other things as well. So this webcast today is being recorded, so if anyone at your organization would like to see it but couldn't actually attend, we'll be publishing out a website, a URL, for where you can go review this later, or view it later. So event analytics, we launched it here in the U.S. A couple of months ago, actually. Kind of the official launch was at our Tech Ed conference in Chicago back in April. And what we decided in the U.S. To do was actually kind of started off the same way we did Event Replicator for Adabas. And many of you already own Event Replicator and use it. And Event Replicator was launched like 12 or 13 years ago, I think it was. And we did it the same way. We started off with some proof of concepts. We did one for City of New York. We did one for State of Minnesota. And it helps Software AG get a feel for how to position this with other customers. And then you guys, as potential customers, can see how other customers are using it. So it's now available to all the customers. It will work on the mainframe with mainframe products, or it will work with the Linux, Unix, Windows products as well. It is extremely powerful. Once you see the demo, I think you're going to be pretty impressed with it. It's real-time or as near real-time as you want to feed us the data. In some of our proof of concept stuff, you know, some of the data, they just wanted to monitor it every, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 times a day, update it. But other stuff, we were refreshing on a very quick basis, you know, like every couple of minutes or every 30 seconds in some cases. And there's really unlimited use cases because you guys will decide what it is you want to monitor and all of the rules and stuff that will go around that. So basically, it breaks down into 4 steps. If you look at it like an architecture picture. And step number 1, and again, this is showing you based upon, you know, Software AG products being monitored. It could be IntireX, Natural, Adabas, Event Replicator, the targeted actor for Event Replicator, any of our products or all of our products. But remember, in addition to Adabas and Natural, I said it could do anything. So it could be SMS, it could be DB2, it could be Oracle, it could be anything as long as you can create a data feed, map that data, and tell us what kind of rules and alerts to apply to that data. And then we can create the alerts and we can create the dashboards. So the step number 1 is just capturing the data. So you capture the data, you send that data via FTP process to step number 2. And step number 2 is just a grouping of products, Software AG products. And I won't spend a lot of time on these just because we are limited in time, but Active Transfer is one of our products that makes FTP process a lot more manageable and controllable. So you'll know that the FTP process, from wherever you're getting this data, you guarantee delivery, you know if for some reason FTP failed, that kind of stuff. So that's a quick overview of Active Transfer. Integration Server is the place where you actually map the data that's coming from the capture step. So let's say I'm getting an Adabas review log down every 5 minutes or every 1 minute or whatever it is you're doing. What you're going to do is you're going to map out which data fields on there you want, and then that's the Integration Server's job, is to map it out and to create a message. And it pops that message down onto Universal Messaging, which is another Software AG product. It's just a pipe, really. That's all it is. And so it's just sitting on Universal Messaging. Then Apama, and this is where all the real stuff comes in, all the real work comes in. Apama is our event analytics engine. So that's where we're going to apply, we're going to take the message off of the messaging queue, Universal Messaging. We're going to then take that message and we're going to apply the rules and alerts that are created through Apama to this. So we're going to look at that data, we're going to analyze it, and we're going to look for unauthorized cases as one of the examples for State of Minnesota. And we say, okay, here's a case, and this person who looked at it, they're not authorized. So let me send off an alert, let me post this to the dashboard, all that kind of stuff. Now, as Apama is correlating this data and analyzing this data, it's then going to have the capability to store this data off. And it comes with 2 options. You can store it into our big memory, which is our Terracotta product. And, you know, with big memory, you're talking about just virtually unlimited amount of memory space. So it's really, really fast storage and retrieval from that big memory. There's also an option to store it off into a relational database, like a SQL Server or whatever. So you store it in either big memory or the SQL, SQL database, and then that's where step number 4 comes in, the presentation and alerting. So Apama analyzes the data, stores it, then either Presto or MashZone, and those are both Software AG presentation tools that creates these dashboards. In both of our proof of concepts, we use MashZone, just because in our case, that's the product we were more familiar with, Eric, myself, Patrick, whoever. We use MashZone, and in our case, since we're familiar with it, it was the fastest way for us to create dashboards. But Presto is actually a more sophisticated dashboard product, but we just aren't as familiar with it. We wanted, for the proof of concepts, to just get something done quickly, so we use MashZone. But Presto is actually a much more sophisticated dashboarding tool. So anyway, that's kind of the 4 steps. You collect the data, you FTP the data, you map it out, Apama gets it, that's where all the real work is done, the analysis, the correlation of data, and then the presentation layer. And I did forget to say one thing, and we did this with a couple of the proof of concepts, is Integration Server actually gave us the capability to actually call out and actually enhance that data. So from Integration Server, we could call out, so we got the data from, let's say, Adabas. We could call out, we could get some more data off of Adabas, off of SQL Server, or Oracle, whatever, and combine that into a single message that Apama then reacts to. And we did all that via web service calls. And I know I'm kind of rushing through this a little bit, but these steps, and if any of you guys really want this PowerPoint so that you can look at it and study it in a little more detail, just let us know after the session, and we can get that for you. But this just goes through those 4 steps that I just talked about in a little bit more detail. So, the event capturing, like I said, it can be a review log off of Adabas, it could be a command log, it could be anything. I don't know if Don's going to talk about, but one of the things that we did for Minnesota was we actually had Natural extract data via batch job. It created, I believe it was a CSV file, a spreadsheet, and that's what we input for one of the dashboards. So basically, you want to capture events. This is just how you do it from Adabas and review and command logs, but there's lots of ways. Eric and I at City of New York, we did EntireX, and we're not going to discuss that here, but there's a lot of things you can do. But so you capture the event, then you transfer the event down via the FTP process, you create this Java message basically, pop it onto the queue, Apama gets it, that's where he correlates the data, figures out all the rules and alerts and all that kind of stuff. And then the presentation and alerting. Again, this is just the dashboarding. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Don from the state of Minnesota, and he's actually going to walk you through their dashboards, based upon the proof of concept we did. So this data is the stuff that we created a couple of months ago. All right, so Don, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Becky. Hi, everybody. I'm with the Minnesota State Department of Human Services Natural Development Division, and one of the applications we have is called PRISM. It's the Child Support and Enforcement application, and that's the one that we're going to be demoing here. For some time, this is a natural application developed in the mid to late 1990s, and not a lot of thought was put in towards some of the data privacy things we've all grown accustomed to having to account for later on. And we have the system is essentially involves a case and people associated with the case. One will be the custodial parent, one will be a non-custodial parent, and then there will be one or more children as part of the case. And as we're used to dealing with sensitive data, if you're not supposed to look at cases that you have no business looking at. And what they've done in the past is when it's suspected that someone is looking at case data they should not be, they'll call and ask the DBA to put a trace on it. I've been exposed to that in other lifetimes, and you get some data out of your monitor and then give it back to them. And that's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't give you the ability to go back and look at past. You have to suspect someone or suspect that a case is being viewed that shouldn't be. It might be a high-profile case like a professional athlete or a politician or something that you only are going to allow a very select number of people to look at, or it might just be, you know, someone's looking at their neighbor or relative's cases that they happen to work here. Well, it's all prohibited. So what the agency really wants is to be able to go back in time and say, can you tell me who's viewed this case over the last month or so? And they want to look at that, and we can't give them that with today's process. So when Becky called to ask if we could come up with a use case, bingo, that's something we already knew. We weren't giving the business what they wanted, and maybe we can use this. And so they did a little bit of thought on that and came in, and in 3.5 days we had something to show for it. And I didn't develop any dashboards, but we came up with some dashboards for unauthorized access by user and by case, and the unauthorized violations. And these were things we put alerts on, that these would be the high-profile cases. And then another set of dashboards for accesses by user, case accesses by user, and which you could search for by month and date, which would give the agency the ability to go back when they get a suspicion that they can go back and look at. And then on the last day, we came up with 2 more, and these were the ones that we just did a quick natural program, extract some data, send it over in a CSV format, which was worker caseload and child support total dollars by county. One of the things I'd suggest, if you take Software AG up on their offer of doing a demo or of a POC for your own company, is that before you have the come up with an example, talk to your business users a little bit. We didn't do that as much. We kind of came up with the ideas by ourselves, and we got to talk to some of the business analysts. But on the very last day, we had a few people from the business involved, and they saw the last demo, and that's when they really started to come up with ideas how to use the products, which of course it was a little late to demo them. But I'd advise you to talk to some people from your business and see what they might have before you actually do a proof of concept. I'm not going to go over these in real detail because Becky's already done that. I'll just point out a couple differences. Again, we did an FTP process from the mainframe. The schematic for the product calls for 3 Windows servers or Unix or Linux servers. We put them all on one for this proof of concept. It was a Windows 2012 VM. So everything was on one server. And again, we used SQL Server as the repository, and then MashZone as the presentation tool. This is kind of a snapshot of the data we were sending over. It's date and time, the user that was looking at the data. So it's really command log data. So for the files and the programs, and by the program, of course, we could tell what they were doing. This is a shot of the mapping, data mapping that happens in the on the integration server. And then this was the queuing mechanism. We would, as long as we would put data to one of these topic folders here, it would just be brought in. And the PAMA rules set up to trigger an event to happen. And they put together this little input screen here where we could put in data for our high-profile cases. Those were the ones we were going to set up an alert, and we chose to set up an alert as a dashboard. You can also do text messages, emails. But we've put a couple of cases in, select these cases, and these are the people authorized to use these cases. So that was how we just entered that in here, so that it would look for those cases, and when the user ID didn't match one of the authorized users to view that case, it would go out to that dashboard. And then another, just a threshold, if you had a X number of cases within a certain time interval, maybe someone was looking at this case that shouldn't be. A couple different ways to look at the data. And so again here, these are the dashboards I'm going to be showing you here in the next few minutes. And these are displays in the dashboard or in the PowerPoint, but Eric's going to give me the actual application now. And here we go. This is live. So in the earlier input screen where you'd put a case and the authorized users, and again, this data we altered it a little bit so because to not show sensitive case information. So the user IDs have been changed as well. So we had to run something in the middle to phony the data up a little bit. And so for this particular one, these three case IDs would have been put in as ones to monitor, and then we had specific users that were allowed to view these, and this would be anyone that did not fall into that category. So you can, it was set up to select these. We could be different here. So this particular case, these are the unauthorized users. Here's the user that was not authorized to look at this, several of them. And scroll through this to your heart's content. If you, all of these things had a, you could display the data off as either a table, or you could save the data. Some of these you could show an image. Okay, here in this one you could say, let me see you could save it as an image on something as a JPEG or so. If you wanted to bring this over to the individual and show them here, I've got you right here. So that was interesting. And it's real time here. This one here was just a summary. So we threw all of the access for every case and out onto into SQL Server. And so if I look at case number here, who's accessed cases the most, I can select this. And again, this is being SQL Server. We didn't do any optimization of indexes, so that's why the response is a little off. So you would see, okay, if I select this case, I might look at, being a user, okay, well, here's this user. They actually should have been looking at the case, but maybe this one shouldn't have. Okay, so I could actually select make it this way. I think this is a one-off. Let's try this one. No, how about here? Okay, what I'm trying to get is to show this. If I select this, then it shows what cases that user used. So this one is who's viewed this case, and I can select via case and say, here, this user, what cases did they look at? And you can select this down by, we put some date ranges in here because there's a lot of volume on this. to give you an idea what you can do here. And this is what we demoed to the IT folks on the second to the last day, and some of the business analysts. And then on the very last day, we were talking in the morning, kind of waiting to do our final demo where we're going to have some of the business folks. And a couple other ideas were brought up. And within an hour, we went from nothing to these dashboards here. How about if we can tell people how many, or the counties, how many cases are assigned to each caseworker? They apparently don't have any way to tell that now. So this was put together. Again, it was soup to nuts in an hour. So by worker intake, how many cases are assigned to each worker, and there's no other selection here, but no. Sorry, I'm a mainframer. So you can see here, it's a little lopsided for the caseload as far as one person in this example. And then this one here was just a summary total of how much data is owed to by county. The business people were really impressed by this, and so they could see a lot of use and have come up with a few things that if we get to purchase the product, which we're still working on, they have some ideas already, and so they were impressed by this. So that's why I say show your business people. I guess I'm ready to go back to you, Becky.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Eric, can you put me back over to the PowerPoint real quick? Thank you. We're running everything off of Eric's machine just because it was easier that way. All I want to say is thanks for your time. We do have, we took screenshots just in case there was going to be any glitches with our server. We took screenshots and put them in here so we could talk to those if we needed to. But there is a website, if I could get this thing to move. Hey, Eric, can you take control back and go to the last screen? I can't get this thing to advance, please. So there's a website where you can go and get additional information. We're going to go ahead and open this up for questions at this point. Yeah, here it is. The website here. There's a lot of information on event analytics out there. If you want to talk to Dawn or somebody like that, we can arrange for that. And if you guys would like to try your own proof of concept, all you have to do is dedicate about 3.5 days for us to be on site. And we don't need you guys, like Dawn was there and a couple of the other guys from the state of Minnesota were there just watching what we were doing, helping us, figure out the data streams and how to map it, well, not map it so much, but what the alerts needed to be, and then, help us, visualize the stuff out to the dashboards. But we're there for about 3.5 days. And that's soup to nuts. That's doing the installations and everything. So everything from beginning to end took about 3.5 days. And as Don said, the more input you guys get from your business analysts and your business users, the more successful this will be. So we can do proof of concepts. You just need to give us a little bit of advance notice so we can get it on our calendars. And at that point, I think we're ready to open it up for questions.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you have a question, please press star then 1 on your touch-tone phone. If you wish to be removed from the queue, please press the pound sign or the hash key. There will be a delay before the first question is announced. If you are using a speakerphone, you may need to pick up the handset first before pressing the numbers. Once again, if you have a question, please press star then 1 on your touch-tone phone. Standing by for questions. And at this
If there,
time, I am showing no questions.
okay, thank you. Well, if there are no questions, I'd like to say thanks for taking the time. And Don did make a good point that I forgot to point out when I was talking about the architecture thing. All of the event analytics tools reside off the mainframe. Like Don said, they go on one or more Linux, Unix, Windows servers. For the POCs we've done, we've always just stuck it on a single server just because it's easier for POC, and you don't have to worry about all the connections and all that. And you guys as customers finding a server sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. So, just finding one, it works for the POC. So if there are no questions, thanks for attending, and next month's webinar will be on debugging natural batch, I believe it is, by Patrick Gould. So look on our website and look for your email invitation for the next webinar from Adabas Natural next month. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.